Dr. Willie J. Parker. I'm trained in obstetrics and gynecology, preventive medicine, and public health. I perceive sexual and reproductive rights to be basic human rights, and as a person trained in reproductive health care specifically for women, but to include men and families, the fulfillment of human rights would include making it possible for women and families to achieve the desired family size that they would like, having control of their reproduction, and that will have direct bearings on their abilities to participate fully in society as equal partners. I moved to the South because it became important for me to make sure that women in that part of the country had access to the same quality of care that women have in other parts of the country. Growing up in the South, in the abject poverty that is common to the South, growing up as a person of color in the South and seeing that the combination of poverty and racial stereotype and stigma made me acutely aware that some of the most vulnerable women in the South are women of color and women who live in poverty. Over half of African Americans in the U.S. live in the South. When you combine the high poverty rates and the high percentage of people of color living in the South, the disparities that go along with poverty and race occur more frequently in the South. When it comes to reproduction, that would mean high rates of unintended pregnancy, low rates of medically accurate sex education, low rates of access to science-based contraception, and low rates of access to abortion, which is necessary when you have unplanned, unwanted pregnancies or wanted but lethally flawed ones. When we become aware of disparities on the basis of race or socioeconomic class, from a human rights standpoint, it becomes imperative that we work to address those issues. I've been the target of verbal hostility, veiled threats, and as well as facing the reality that there have been people who've been killed for providing the type of services that I provide. I had a protester to follow me across the street to a sandwich shop and to take pictures of me with the purpose of intimidating me under the threat of posting those photos online, which would make them available to people who may be more hostile and more extreme. I have been the target of people who have gained access to my personal information by accessing my applications for licensure with the intent of intimidating me. The laws and the rules that would govern healthcare have been and at times used to restrict access to some of the most vital aspects of healthcare. My story is one of conscience. Someone once said that when you wrestle with your conscience and you lose, you actually win. What made the Good Samaritan good was his ability to reverse the question of concern. The Good Samaritan was more concerned about what would happen to the person who needed his help than he was about what would happen to him for providing the care. And I, after 12 years of not being able to provide the service, grew uncomfortable not providing that service for women when I knew what it meant when that care is not available. Women suffer unnecessarily, and in extreme circumstances, women die when they don't have access to abortion care. People are so moved and polarized one way or the other about the issue of reproductive rights, and abortion means that I daily bear the risk that someone so extreme on this issue might try to harm me physically. The world would look different if women had access to the very things that I want for myself. The world would look differently if women could, on a consistent basis, be unfettered to be in control of their own fates. As a man, when I see the oppression of women, solely on the basis of the accident of birth, that they happen to be women. I see it as my personal responsibility to make sure that women have access to the same rights that I have access to, which are human rights. And so since we're both human, there should be no difference in our ability to achieve our goals. I need for human rights to become universal in their application the way they are in principle.